everyone. Welcome to our very first episode of the Gradual Growth Podcast. I will be your host. My name is Diego Rodriguez. I'm an associate certified entomologist. I have a certificate in public health entomology, and I currently work for Preventive Pest Control here in Las Vegas. So, I wanted to bring this podcast to you guys to focus on, believe it or not, personal growth. I want to share why personal growth is important, the different aspects around it, and how that also kind of goes into professional development. So I'll be bringing different guests. I'm going to start with my friends, people that I know and love and trust, and I want them to share what they know and their expertise with you and the different parts of personal growth. So for today's episode, I have my good friend, Marissa Abram. She's from Columbus, Ohio. Marissa is the CEO of the Dog Wizard Las Vegas, and she also likes to participate in a lot of dog sports such as frisbee and dock diving, I believe. You do dock diving, right?
Yes,
Marissa?
I do. Yes, I do.
Okay. So Marissa likes to compete in different dog sports such as dock diving and frisbee, doggy frisbee. How do you say it?
Yeah, toss and fetch or the quadruped.
Dogs and fetch with a quadruped.
Uh,
Pinky.
Toss and fetch and the quadruped.
Okay, I'm just gonna go with toss and fetch frisbee.
Okay.
So Marissa likes to compete in different events like dock diving and fetch fetch frisbee, dog and fetch, dog
Toss
and
and
fetch,
fetch.
toss and fetch. Marissa also likes to compete in different sports such as dock diving and toss and fetch and the quadruped. And I would like to introduce you guys to Marissa Abram. Hey, Marissa.
Hi, Diego. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, I had heard about you a few years ago just from the kind of circles we run in. And you reached out to me a couple of years ago because you were interested in getting into bedbug detection, and that's something that I do. So, why don't we start there? What made you decide to kind of reach out and ask for an introduction into the detection world?
Yeah, it was something that I wanted to get into, and one of our mutual friends had told me to reach out to you directly, that you were one of the best in the industry, and if I wanted to learn and be good at it, he directed me to you. So I contacted you in hopes to learn what I can to help myself and my most recent purchase canine.
Okay. And what is that dog's name?
That's Canine Twist. She's from
Can
Piedmont, Alabama.
Piedmont, Alabama. Does she bark with a little bit of a southern accent?
She growls with a southern accent.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, so today's topic, I would like to cover why personal growth and professional development is important. So before we dive in, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're focused on at this point?
Yeah. So you covered the fact that I am the CEO of the Las Vegas Dog Wizard. I also work part-time as a canine um, bed bug handler for a company back in Columbus. And I also, like you said, I like to compete in a lot of dog sports. My biggest passion is the frisbee side of things with my dogs. But on top of that, kind of my first passion has always been teaching, and I teach in an urban district in Columbus, Ohio, where I teach high school math.
So you're currently a teacher.
Yes,
How do you find time to do all of these things?
I try and ask myself that every day.
Good. Good. So what are some of the things that you're focused on right now?
So right now I'm focused on personal or professionally. I'm focused on continuing to develop my canine Twist. She's still, I would consider her green, even though we're operationally. And then personally, I'm focused on building a family with my fiance, and we are getting married this fall. So that has taken up a lot of our time. Just getting that squared away and planning everything.
Well, congratulations. What's your
Thank
fiance's name?
Kyle.
Kyle. Congratulations to you and Kyle.
Thank you.
So, what does the term personal growth mean to you?
When I think about personal growth, really in a nutshell, it's just about, I think about being better than what you were previously. Whether that's being better than what you were the day before, the week before, the month before, or even the year before, or if you're trying to do something, continuing to be better at that, be better at whatever you're working on.
Okay, very nice. So, I come from the world of pest control. Um,
Hmm.
and in our world, when we're looking at insects, there's two types of growth cycles. There's the complete growth cycle where an insect grows from one stage and then it changes and becomes an adult and then it's done. It's very simple. And then there's another type of stage called a gradual growth cycle where it the insect grows in stages and it seems like it never kind of reaches its point. Even though in theory it does, the concept is though that the growth just keeps coming in stages. And I really loved that terminology. That's where I came up with the name gradual growth for the podcast and for my training group here in Las Vegas. So I really love that concept, and I think you are a really good example of why of that of that principle, which is why I asked you to come and join me on this podcast.
Thank you.
So, um, was there a specific moment or a turning point in your life or your professional career that made you start thinking about growth and taking it seriously?
I don't think that there's a particular point. I think it kind of goes back to how I was raised. And my mom was a really hardworking, and she still is very hardworking woman. And she kind of taught myself and my sister to always hustle, always be working, always trying to be the best that we can be. And I think that some of those core values really were instilled from my mom from a very young age. And I think just that's always been my personality. That's always been the way that I am, is just trying to be better all the time. And that really, I think, comes from my mom.
Okay.
So
Um,
no, specific point, but just.
okay. So let me ask you a different way. There have been times where you have decided to make changes
Hmm.
in your life, like before you reached out to me. Was was there something that kind of made you decide that you wanted to make a change and then you decided to put a plan in place? Or did you want to get away from something and do something different, something that you enjoyed more? Was there any sort of method to that particular pattern or any method to that particular idea or thought process?
Yeah, like I tend to look at things, or I discover new things obviously as we get older, or I develop or I learn about other things. And so um, I didn't even know bed bug detection was a thing before I reached out to you. And so I started to learn about it, and I thought it was really interesting. And then just kind of with my personality, I I wanted to learn as much as I can about it. I wanted to all of a sudden do it. I wanted to try it. And when I find something that is of interest to me, I kind of go full force in wanting to learn. And so asking questions, trying to do all of my research. And I don't think there's any one thing that I was like, oh, I don't really want to do this anymore. I want to do that. But I will say that over time, the passion of being a canine handler and doing the bed bugs has definitely become one of the top things that I really do like to do.
Gotcha. And I think it's pretty obvious, but I'm going to say it out loud. People like me and you who enjoy playing and learning about bed bugs, we're a rare breed, and people think we're
Yeah.
crazy, and we might just be.
Yeah.
So, were you what were you like before that change happened or that shift? What do you think um, inspired that change?
I think, I definitely am a teacher first. Um, and then owning the Dog Wizard locations. Um, I think there was maybe an idea of being not complacent, but comfortable with what I was doing day to day. Um, and I wanted something different. I love working with dogs. I love obviously working with pet dogs, but I wanted to do something a little bit different, and this was the way to do it.
Okay, I love it. So I'm a huge John Maxwell fan. Honestly, he'll probably be mentioned quite a lot in a lot of the things he teaches, and that made me think of the law of the rubber band. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
So basically, the law of the rubber band states that a rubber band is useless unless it's being stretched. And
Yeah. Okay.
that's kind of how we should be also. Unless we're being stretched and pushed beyond our comfort level, that we're not going to be very useful either. So that's very awesome. Uh, Looking back, is there a version of growth you used to believe in and that you've since let go of?
A version of growth. Um,
Like,
I
I'll give you
think.
an example. I'll
Yeah. Go ahead.
start real quick. So like, I think that people just kind of wander around and let life happen to them. They don't
For sure.
happen to life. And I think that's a version of growth. It's not on purpose, it's accidental, but it's still growth, but it's not necessarily what people like. So that's kind of how an old version of growth that I saw that I didn't particularly care for. What about you?
Yeah, I would think, um, you know, through, my teenage, my young adult, and now my adult, up until recently, I feel like I kind of checked some boxes. You graduate high school, and then I thought, growing was then going to college, and then from college, graduating, right? And then getting a job, and then you're supposed to, get married and all, and all those things. I think that might have been a version of growth that I thought was realistic, but that's not really, the idea of growth that I have now. That's not really growing. That's just checking boxes at the end of the day.
Okay. I think I kind of correlate that with the people who go to work because that's what they did yesterday. Not because they love it, not
Yeah.
because they show up to work to help people. They go to work because they need a paycheck and it's one that
Hmm.
they had a job there yesterday, we might as well try that same thing again today, and they don't get any satisfaction out of life. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that's very, very neat. So a lot of people grow by accident through hardship, timing, luck. What do you think is different about growing intentionally?
Growing intentionally is obviously with a purpose. Um, I think you have to have a plan. I think you have to learn to be uncomfortable at times. You have to be learn to be, as you said, stretched or stressed um, at the same time. And when you're intentionally growing, there's definitely checkpoints that I think you look for to make sure that you're on the right track. And also, when you're intentionally growing, I think you also expect to fail at times, but it doesn't necessarily knock you down. You still keep going, and you kind of
Okay,
maybe look at a different avenue, or problem solve. Like when you're intentionally trying to be better, nothing really stands in your way.
that's a good observation. So you mentioned being stretched or stressed. Can you tell me how you think being stressed will help you grow?
I think it's not necessarily how it's going to help you grow. I mean, yes, it'll make you a stronger person, but I think it's all a part of the process. So if you're just kind of floating by in life and being comfortable, right? There's, like you said, you get up because you went to work because that's what you did yesterday. That's a comfortable. But I think when you're intentionally trying to really progress, there's going to be some stressful times of whether that's learning or failing or not doing, not having it turn out the way that you wanted it to be. It's just part of the process, and you have to be willing to accept that and keep pushing.
Okay, and not let the stress overpower your
Yeah,
ability to grow and learn from what your plan is. I love it.
absolutely.
Why do you think so many people coast instead of actively directing their own growth or planning their own growth or being purposeful with their own growth?
Yeah, I think I touched on it a little bit. I would say it's that comfortability piece. Um, and people get into a routine and a rhythm and they don't want to get outside their comfort level, or maybe they might be close to retirement or 10 years from retiring, and there might be that promotion that's up at work, and it's like, do I really want to do that, or do I just want to coast till retirement? I think also too, sometimes people live in the now versus maybe the future as well, and thinking about those possibilities down the road.
Okay, I love that. What what's the cost of not growing on purpose and in a career specifically?
I think, well, I can relate to that a bit. In my first career here as a school teacher, um, if I just stay comfortable and I don't try and grow in that, one, my students don't necessarily excel, and I'm not finding the best solution for them to learn. But also too, I feel sometimes I've caught myself where, I'm going through the motions because I've been teaching for almost 15 years. And my brain personally, my brain just kind of just stays there, doesn't get sharp. It's not exercised. It's just kind of going through the motions. And for me, it's a cloudy feeling. Um, I like to challenge myself in those careers. And so trying to do things a little bit differently.
Okay, now I'm gonna throw you a little a question that kind of out of left field, but still kind of where we're at. So you mentioned about teaching. Are you able to notice which students are going to do a good job and which students are not going to do that great in school? Like, let's
Uh,
say early in the year as opposed to before you've known them for a while.
I can make some assumptions. I try not to, but I can make some assumptions. Yes.
Like, are you able to? I'll use my daughter as an example.
Hmm.
She is currently just finished her freshman year of college. She has had a plan forever and ever. She learned some from her siblings. She went, okay, this sibling did this. I didn't like that because X, Y, and Z. So I'm going to do something a little bit different. And she has her plan in place, and she's been working it diligently for many years now. She's 19 now, so she's got the maturity of somebody my older than me. She's more mature than me, I think, usually. Um, but I could see from very early on that her habits and the way she did things kind of was going to line her up to be a successful person, and I'm seeing that be realized in real life, in real time right now. Are you able to see that in like in some of the kids that you're like, okay, after just knowing them for a day or two, you're like, that kid's going to be just fine, and that one over there might end up on the news.
Or
Do,
might
do
need
you,
some support. Yes, 100%.
or yes, and does that come in from sometimes from the parents, if the parents are involved, if the parents care, like does that kind of come into play sometimes if they have support from their family structure or
Yep, I think
their
that
life at
that
home?
definitely plays a factor, especially in the district that I teach. Um, a lot of the kids don't necessarily have the support of their parents, or because of their household income, and their parents really working hard to put a roof over their head. Their parents are a lot of times working, and they're left on their own, or they're left to raise their siblings while their parents are working. So
So you're saying none of us can do this alone? Is that what you're saying? We're
yeah,
better
for
off
sure.
without.
Yeah,
Okay.
100%.
Okay. Um, all right, let's move over to a little bit more different, little bit different. What's an area of your life or your career where you're intentionally growing right now?
I'm intentionally growing. I feel like I grew a little bit in my teaching career. I've been the math department chair And that chapter is kind of closed a little bit right now. I'm really focused on my bed bug detection and intentionally growing there, but also trying to grow in my faith and my soon-to-be marriage with my fiance.
Okay. Do you mind if we jump into your faith a little bit?
Yeah, that's fine.
Why is that important to you? Growing in your
Um,
faith.
yeah, because I think that that is the foundation of a good marriage. Um, and that's something that is really important to me. And that's also something that's super important to my fiance as well. So that's something that we are both working on together as a team.
Yeah, and it kind of circles back to what we were talking about with students having support from home. If we
Yeah.
have support with our own faith, I think that's very beneficial, and I think you agree. I love that.
Hmm.
What is the goal that you've set for yourself that completely changed the trajectory of your life?
A goal that I set for myself, um, I would say to be married. I don't know if that's necessarily like a goal, but that was maybe more of a want, or no, I would say a goal too. And when I met Kyle, that goal became reality, and that definitely changed the trajectory of everything because obviously when you're by yourself, um, you're doing your own thing, and then now I have somebody that I need to consider. So that's bless Kyle's heart. He's super go with the flow. So I'm always running around, and he's willing to follow me around.
Okay, good. Have you ever set a growth goal that turned out to be the wrong one, a mistake, something that was a brick wall when you thought it was an open road?
Yeah, that was I just kind of like I barely touched on it there. So being the math department chair, I thought that that was something that I wanted to do as a goal of mine in teaching, and I quickly realized that that is probably not where I shine. Um, it's a lot of meetings, it's a lot of paperwork, it's a lot of responsibility added on to just teaching, and so I don't think that I did the best that I could, but I don't think it was a good fit for me.
Okay. Um, why do you think it wasn't a good fit for you?
I just don't think that, even though I'm a math teacher, the data that I had to collect, the data I had to study, the meetings that I had to attend, and then to just really deep dive into things that were not just through the math department, were just probably not my strong suit, I felt. And it really took me out of my comfort zone. Um, and it was really challenging. And I did that for a couple years. And then this past year, I said I passed the baton on to somebody else to give it a try.
Okay. So if someone wanted to be more intentional about their growth tomorrow, heck, today, right now, where do you think they should start?
I think if they want to be intentional, they need to start with themselves first, and taking care of business with themselves and reflecting on themselves as a person, um, in the day to day life. And I think that starts kind of in your house, with yourself, and then branching off into kind of those next steps. But I think it definitely you need to look in the mirror first.
Okay. Okay. How do you personally set goals and how do you keep yourself accountable to them?
Oh, that's a good question. I share. It's a lot of communication, and it's actually a lot of communication with Kyle. Kyle is super supportive of me, and he really helps me stay on track. He helps me make sure that I can reach those goals, and is a motivation because I want to be better for both of us. Um, but I set those goals, and then I communicate with somebody what are those goals, and you have that person that keeps you accountable, and that's Kyle for me.
Okay. I'll jump into this a little bit too. So, if any of you guys remember, there was a gentleman by the name of Zig Ziglar, and he taught of this wheel called the Wheel of Life, and it had seven spokes. It covered different aspects such as your finances, your career, your intellectual, your your physical health, and your spiritual, amongst a couple other ones. And the point of this wheel is that you needed to be well balanced, because if you were short or lacking in one of these spokes, you would have a flat tire, and it would start to affect other parts of your life. So, for example, if you focus too hard on your work and you ignored your family, you would get a chance to work on your family as you're having to go through counseling or divorce or something like that. And if it, on the same thing, if you were paying too much attention to work and not your health, and ignoring your health, and you're just hitting the drive-through every day, you are going to get a chance to pay attention to your health when your doctors read you your blood results and they're horrible news, or you, heaven forbid, you end up in the hospital. You're going to get a chance to pay attention to your health that way. And if you kind of pay attention to all of them, and obviously you're going to have weak ones and you're going to have better ones that you're naturally more talented or just skilled at, or that naturally come to you easier. um, However, the goal is to be as balanced as possible to kind of help you move along your life better. So I set my goals usually every winter, and I focus on each one of those 7 spokes. And I also start by going, hey, where do I want to be in 10 years? And then I'll lay my goals out, and then I'll be like, okay, in order for that to be true, where do I have to be in 5 years? And then, if in order for that to be true, where do I have to be in 3 years? And then, in order for that to be true, what do I have to do this year? And that's kind of where I lay out the specific goals that I have to do, either on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis, quarterly, whatever it's going to take. And then I try to set up some sort of tracking system to hold myself accountable to them. And I set up some sort of check-in period, whether it's every Sunday after church or something like that. That way I can try to keep track of where I am. And I don't always follow through on everything perfectly, but as I've looked back over the last 5, 6, 7 years that I've been doing this, I've come so far with just being better at following through on these goals, being more disciplined. And I realize that I still have a long way to go, but it's a good way for myself to kind of keep those goals in line. And of course, everything has to be measurable. You can't just say, I would like to do this. You have to say, I would like to, if we're talking about saving money, if my goal is to save $1,200 this year, well, how am I going to do that? I got to save $100 a month. That's $25 a weekend. So it breaks down simple like that. That way it's measurable and trackable.
Absolutely.
So, um, let's keep rolling. So what role do mentors, feedback, or community play in your growth?
Um, for me personally, I have some very strong mentors, and they play a huge role in my success. I wouldn't be where I am, especially in the bed bug world, and in the detection world, without my mentors. And then as it relates to feedback and the community alone, just to have that support is great, especially within our community of detection. I think that they shed a huge light on, if you need help, if you're trying to problem solve, if you have questions or just need somebody to listen, that they're always there for you. So I think, again, is it possible to do a lot of this intentional growth and personal growth without that? Yeah, sure. But it's a lot, find it to be a lot easier and a lot more rewarding and fun when you have those great mentors, and then you have that community with us.
Good. And spoiler alert, our episode that's going to follow this one is going to be focused on mentorship and why that's important. So stay tuned for that. So, is there a habit or a practice that you consider non-negotiable for growth, something that you must do or you're just not going to succeed?
I think reflecting. You have to take time to reflect, and you have to take time to check your progress, and really take that measurable steps and make sure that you are progressing in which the way you want to be progressing. And if you're not, then you need to make those changes.
Okay. So that kind of circles back to the beginning of our conversation where people just kind of wander through daily life for the most part.
Yeah,
Um, Sometimes I call people like that in the way people or sheeple.
yeah,
That they're just wandering around doing what they're doing because that's just kind of the way the wind's blowing that particular day.
yeah,
And yeah, I don't think many people like that tend to stop and assess their reality and actually be honest with themselves. I love
yeah.
that. That's a really good answer. Thank you.
Of course.
So, what does success look like to you? What does success look like to you now, in 5 years, and in 10 years?
For my success, in 5 years and 10 years, I really I want to continue down the bed bug detection world, um, and continue to be successful at that, and maybe continue to produce a few more dogs down the road. I also want to be successful in building a family and in my marriage. And in 10 years, I would be I'd like to be close to retirement at the end of the day. That would be nice, but not quite there yet. But just continuing to be the best that I can be and be better than what I am today in 10 years. Um, Maybe being a leader of some sort, a teacher of some sort within the community. But that's where I would define myself in 5 or 10 years. I'm not quite sure yet.
Okay. So there is this British singer by the name of Frank Turner. He wrote a song called Ceasefire. And he's basically talking to his 15-year-old self who would probably hate the man he is today. And he's basically telling him to kind of calm down. When I heard that song, I was thinking, I was like, what would what would I tell my my 15-year-old self? Like, where would I be with my 15-year-old self? And after kind of reflecting on that, I I I would tell him I'm proud of him. He's gone through a lot. He's seen so many things and stood up and did it the best he could. He wasn't perfect, but he did the best he could with what he had. What would you tell your 15-year-old self right now?
I would be pretty surprised to say that I'm the CEO of the Dog Wizard Las Vegas. I never thought that the direction I would be owning a business. Um, I thought at that age I was going to be a teacher, and I am a teacher, but I'm not sure that being a teacher is my forever career. It's definitely for now, and it's right now. Um, but I think as a 15-year-old, it would be hard to say that I own a business, or that I'm a canine handler. Those are two things that never crossed my mind. I grew up playing sports, so I guess the sport combination with my dogs, I guess, tracks. I'm just not the one playing them.
Gotcha. Is there any sort of parting advice you would like to leave us with?
Yeah, this is a great, these have been really good questions. They have been great conversation here. And I think just, trying to be a better, as short, as simple as it can be, is just be a better version of yourself than what you were yesterday. I think is a great rule of thumb to kind of sum it up. But it's never too late to try something new.
Wonderful. Well, Marissa, I think we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for being my very first guest.
Thank you for
And
having me.
please expect to be asked to come back.
Okay, thank
So
you.
I'm pretty sure we'll all look forward to it. And hopefully next time we'll both be better at what we're doing. And we'll continue that growth.
Okay,
All right.
thank
Thank you
you.
so much. And thank you guys for hanging around and listening to our very first episode of the Gradual Growth Podcast. Take care.